get you in a compromising position. They like to get you there and smile in your face. They think they're so cute when they got you in that condition. Well, I think it's a total disgrace. I fight authority. Authority always wins. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, yet another fantastic show. We're going to blow your minds.
Well, of course we are. That goes without saying after 107 shows.
Yes.
A lot of people recorded that song, Jay.
Yeah?
Didn't they?
I don't think so.
Or am I thinking of something else?
You might be thinking of something else.
What was the chorus again? What did you say at the very end again?
I fight authority. Authority always wins.
Okay, I've heard that like in the 50s, and I've heard that later on. I think I even heard a rap version of that once.
Oh, boy.
Don't know who sang any of them. Now, if you're going back to the 50s, I can take a guess.
Okay.
You know, like it sounds, because that version's kind of like Splish Splash, I was taking a bath. But
Word.
no, I won't take a guess. I won't embarrass myself anymore.
I'd
who do we
like
got
to
this?
know who you think it is to see if it's the same song, because I'm not aware of anyone else singing it. That would be news to me.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm not saying
Then
that's
maybe
not possible.
maybe I'm thinking of something slightly different then.
Hard to say.
You know, it's
I mean,
tough when
could
you
be right.
ad-lib. You know, you and I ad-lib everything here. We don't have a script here on the show. So,
Right.
So we think out loud, and sometimes on the air you kind of freeze as to where you heard something or how similar something sounds. I can't even make a guess. I'm not going to embarrass myself any further by not knowing. Now, who is it? Out with it.
It's the Authority song by John Mellencamp, or John Cougar, or John
okay.
Cougar Mellencamp.
I was not going to guess John Cougar Mellencamp.
Okay.
I can name some of his songs, though,
Yeah? That's good.
I think.
Yeah?
Jack and Jill, would that be one?
No. Jack and Diane.
Jack and Diane, that's
Yeah.
what I meant. What else did he sing? They'll Come to Me.
Okay.
They'll Come to Me, yeah.
You'll just shout them out in the middle of the podcast like you have Tourette's or something like that?
Maybe, or I might Google
Yeah.
it while you're not watching. But I mean, I know like 100. I mean, he's
Yeah.
been around forever, so it's
Pink Houses.
Pink Houses, okay.
We actually had that one on one of our earlier podcasts.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it after the Pink House, the Pink Palace or Castle and Crystal there down Bass Lake Road?
I don't think it was about that one, no.
Okay. The Pink.
don't think it was
Well,
that.
what was it called? The Pink Castle or the Pink Palace? I don't remember what it was.
I don't know. That was maybe before my time.
No.
No?
That's right down. I remember it from the Planning Commission. It was right down. It was an empty
Oh.
pink building before you get to the VFW there.
Yeah.
Now it's like a law office or something, but it was something.
Rockin' in the USA. That's another one you might know.
Who sings that?
John
Oh,
Mellencamp.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just impressed. You know, the one show I named three Billy Joel songs, I was very proud of myself.
That was good.
So,
That was good.
anyhow, Jay, before we get into fighting the law and the law won,
Yeah.
you know, unless you're in Hazard County, we have a little follow-up. Not follow-up, but last week we had a lot of, I think there's some people not too happy with us about that podcast.
I'm getting that.
About the
yeah.
school district. But we kind of have I don't want to say an update, but something that we kind of discovered after the show. You know, when we record the show and when they go out are 2 different days. And
Mm-hmm.
I think most people know that. And great thing about podcasting, that's why you and I never miss a show, because
Right.
we can record them whenever the hell we want. But the principal of Armstrong is being removed. David Dahl. No, not the guy who does the weather. No, he's not. He's not moonlighting as a principal.
Yeah.
Okay. But he is being removed and, quote, reassigned for the 2019-20 school. Now, he's been principal
Wow.
at Armstrong for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
15
yes.
years or something like that. So he's been there for quite a while. And we talked last week about the unified district vision and how great they're doing, but they're doing great, but they can't
Right.
tell us how.
Or as I called it, a vision for failure.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Vision for Vision Zero. That's the original Vision Zero.
There you go.
There we go. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know if I want to call it Armstrong Community or some teachers, students, parents
Yeah.
came to sort of give the school district kind of a piece of their mind about what they thought about it.
Yeah.
And this apparently went out in some email or press release. I mean, nobody saw it coming. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess people aren't entitled to that, but
Right.
I just wonder how long this has been cooking up. Our board chair, John Vento, thanked everyone in attendance, which was, of course, great of him, and said that they were not going to have a discussion about anything that night. Of course, the school board doesn't hire principals. Let's make that clear. They hire the superintendent, just like a city hires the
City
administrator or
manager.
manager. And of course, they're going to hide behind this personnel issue protected by privacy law. Now, Jay, I got a question for you before we get into that.
Okay.
What could possibly be protected here on a legal basis? I mean, because we're going to get into it where they say it is not performance related.
Right. Anytime you do a review of an employee, I guess that's technically protected. So we'll never really know. You think about like a city manager. Those are the only time a city council is allowed to have closed door meetings.
Yes.
When they're dealing with personnel issues like that.
Right.
So technically speaking, it's probably the same here where we're not entitled to know why. I mean, unless there's something resulting from it where there would be some sort of possible lawsuit where the school district needed to cover their behinds or something like that.
Okay, but play devil's advocate with me here.
Yes.
If you're going to remove somebody and change their job, and there's a good reason behind it, why would you not come out and explain that? Can't you do that without violating? I don't want to know his. I'm not entitled to see his review. But why
here's
can't?
the thing, though. In education, this is the way that education works.
True, there may be a union agreement too that we don't know about.
We're going to shift people around, and we are not going to divulge certain things because we want to be able to we want them to be able to get a job again somewhere, whether we're placing them somewhere or whether they're going outside the district. And
this guy plans to retire soon.
Yeah, he's got 1 year left till retirement.
1 year when he can. I don't know that he's. I don't know that he said he's going to, but he is, I guess, eligible to retire after the 2020 graduation.
If I were him, I would do it.
If I were him, I'd run as far away as possible.
Yes.
But when asked about the personal review process for Principal Dahl, Carlton Jenkins said there was no deficiency in Dahl's performance that played a part in the reassignment decision. Now, Jay, before I read the rest of it,
yes,
you are very good, almost as good as I am, in reading code language.
Yes.
Okay, and what I mean by that is you hear government people say they're going to streamline a process, or we're going
to make an investment into something.
We're going to make it sustainable.
Yeah,
we're going to have options for all users. I mean,
we need
all
to make
know
it equitable.
Right, we all know what that's code language for.
Right.
Okay, I don't have to say it, but you've been listening to this program. We've spent over 2 years divulging this. Now, here's the next sentence.
Yes.
Rather, the decision was about strengthening the district and taking it to the next level, Jenkins said, noting that this isn't the first time he has strategically moved an administrator. Dahl's role will help the district fulfill a 3-year reconciliation agreement with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights to help the district disproportionately address their disproportionate disciplinary outcomes to reduce the disparities in suspensions and expulsion rates for students with disabilities and students of color. Now, what authority does the Department of Human Rights have to do anything to the Robbinsdale School District?
None.
So, I mean, this is how I'm reading this, and what I say is what I have to say is going to spark a firestorm here, but I'm going to say it anyway because it needs to be said. You know, the Sun Post and Channel 12 aren't going to do any investigative reporting. They're going to leave it to the real people like us to do it.
Right.
First off, I want to address the suspension stuff first.
Okay.
You know, you don't get suspended for being a person of color. Okay, you get suspended for behavior.
Right.
And I've always said this to people: if you don't want to get arrested, if you don't want to get kicked out of something, change your behavior. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest way to do it. Now, what's the school supposed to do? Are they supposed to say, well, you know, you did whatever warrants a suspension, but because you're a certain race, we're going to let you off with nothing? I mean, is that what's going to happen here?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, and this. Let me pull on my experience as a teacher again.
Sure.
It happened all the time. Kids would act up. I had one time. Yeah, I'm going to tell this story. I've never told this story.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Hold on. Where's my popcorn?
I had some unruly kids. You know, I would send kids out. Administrators would send them back into the class 10 minutes later. You know, and I had one that he got right up in my face. He got mad because I was trying to make him do the assignment and do the work we were doing.
Have him learn something?
Yeah, have him learn something. He got up and got right in my face. Do you think he got suspended?
I'm guessing not.
No, he did not.
So what did you do about it? I mean, what was the
nothing? There's nothing I could do about it because the administration there was not going to take care of it. There's nothing I could do. I can send him out of class. He's back in 10 minutes.
Yeah, and remember last week you told the story about you were failing too many kids.
Yeah.
You had to give them grades they didn't earn.
Yes.
That's our education system.
That was our education system back then.
Now, you were talking what? When were you a teacher?
Early
20s?
2000s.
Oh, okay. So you're late 20s?
Yeah.
Ish?
Maybe,
Okay.
or early. I don't know. Something. Yeah, mid 20s. Yeah. So,
Jay, I'm so happy in 1 year you got out of there.
oh,
Or you were there 2 years?
I was there a year. I was in districts doing substitute teaching before that.
Oh,
and then moved into that role, not knowing that they were already planning to get rid of my program when I moved in.
Oh.
Yeah.
So is that part of why you left?
Yeah.
They just dropped and said,
we're not doing band anymore.
oh, okay. Kids
Yeah.
don't need to learn anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't tell me that when I took the job, but I heard from other teachers it was planned well before I got there. Which is always nice. Anyways. Yes. Fantastic. I think that it was actually, if I heard right, and I'm getting into bunny trailing here, but I think that it is maybe the junior high that Prince went to. Sanford Middle School. But anyways, yeah, so they...
Was it named after Sanford and Son?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. But this is what's been going on. And if it was that bad then, it's even worse now.
It has to be worse now. Got to be 10 times as bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it is. I mean, it's terrible. You cannot, really punish kids for yelling at you, swearing at you.
The teacher has no control anymore.
I know personally that there have been incidences in the Robbinsdale School District where teachers and other people have been the victim of physical things, inappropriate touching, getting hit. And nothing really has... a suspension has been handed out in those instances, but not expulsion.
Now, we should mention, I mean, it's not like you haven't been involved. In addition to being a former teacher, you got 3 kids.
Yeah.
2 of them graduated from Cooper.
Yes.
So it's not like you've been, I can sit here and say this as somebody who doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
But you've been on the very involved, with the district for 20 years now or something like that. I mean,
right.
as a parent. So, yeah. Huh. That doesn't surprise me. And you know what's sad? What's really... And it's funny because, we did a lot of poking fun at I don't think poking fun is the right word. Factually talking about the results of their plans last show. At the same time, teachers in the classroom and administrators in some level have had so much authority taken away from them.
Yeah.
So that's like I said last week. I mean, it's time for the public schools to become AM radio. I mean, I
agree.
It'll happen as soon as the forces allow it to happen.
Right.
So, now let me get back to.
Okay. Yeah. Point 2, or did we finish point 1?
Well, we kind of finished point 1, but I mean, we talked about code language.
Yes.
And we're going to go to this unified district vision. Now, of course, we talked about that enough last week, but we're going to look at points 1 and 2. Now, whatever this means, I don't know what this means. Implement policies and practices that open pathways to academic excellence for all students. Utilize culturally responsive teaching and personalized learning. Jay, can I say something very controversial here?
Well,
I do every week.
It's our podcast. I guess we can do whatever we want.
Mr. Dahl is being reassigned to some monkey business position, something they're just inventing to satisfy some.
Well, it's a real need to have because they want to reduce the number of suspensions for certain groups of people.
Right. What they're going to do is change the rules so that fewer suspensions happen.
Yes, and then they will claim that as success.
Or they'll suspend white kids for being 5 minutes late. I mean, it'll be something like that, and then they'll call that progress.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to place money. If I'm going to bet your house, that who replaces Mr. Dahl is a minority.
I would let you place that bet with my house.
Because I think that what I'm hearing there. Now, of course, they're going to do a national search and have 9,000 applicants. Right. Let me tell you something. This move wouldn't be made. I don't believe that. They would never make this move. He's doing this for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way that they are not going to hire a minority for this position.
Right.
Don't give me this. Look.
No.
And I'd rather, if this district wants any credibility, why don't they just come out and say it? Why don't they say, look, we think it's for whatever reason.
We think that because of the ethnic or nationalistic makeup of our student body, that it would best serve them to have somebody
You're writing their press release for them.
I am.
What if?
See, I've been in this business for a long time.
What if the school was 90% white, and we said, well, because of the national ethnic, of this school, we're going to hire a white person. Yeah, they'd get sued.
Right.
But so yes, you're writing it. You're writing their press release.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it too many times.
Look, it doesn't make sense any other way. It makes no sense to make this move.
How do you fit it in with the unified district vision other than that?
Yeah. Hey, not about graduation rates or test scores. We know that.
Right.
Sure as hell know that. So look, I know we're going to get flack for saying that, but somebody has to say it.
Yeah. So, the moral of that story is, don't even bother applying if you look like Andrew or I.
Yeah. Or Mr. Dahl. They don't want an old white guy.
Well, I'm not old.
Well, he is.
Oh, okay.
But, of course, the board, couldn't be happier. You listen to Sherry Terrell. Oh, he's doing an excellent job at moving our district forward toward the vision we set out 6 years ago. Well, where is that exactly?
He being Carlton Jenkins.
I guess so.
Yeah, okay.
Who wasn't even there when this started. So Helen Bassett, same thing. The school district is the driver. So for so many things in the community. Oh, zippity doo dah. That's the goal and the hope for academic achievement for all students. Zippity doo dah again. What again? Like we showed last week. Show me the evidence where you're making progress.
Right. Well, maybe they will surprise me. And
I hope so.
I mean,
why would I cheer for failure?
I don't want them to hire a white male. I want them to hire the best person for the job.
Yes.
Whether he's Indian, Native American, African American, Inuit, white, Chinese.
Purple, green.
They found him frozen in some ice slab in Antarctica. I don't care.
Is that The Shining?
I don't care. Just make sure it's the best person for the job. Male, female, best person for the job. And I don't mean by your liberal standards where, this guy's touchy-feely, and I mean that not in the sense that they shouldn't be at that school.
People know what you really mean.
Where you're putting forth an agenda where we're taking away books so that we can replace them with books that have been written by check the cultural benchmark.
We're cleansing our history there.
Yeah. I don't want that. I want the best person for the job to make our kids not college ready, but life ready.
Yeah. But college readiness, you know what that does to soccer moms?
No.
Oh, okay. I've only seen it on TV. But it our schools are as effed up as you can possibly imagine. I'm just there are days, I'm going to be very personal here. There are days where I regret that I'm not a parent, and I'm too old anyway. But there are days I don't. And today and our last show were days where I'm happy that I'm not a parent. Because I'd go into these schools and they'd suspend me from the school before they'd suspend 95% of the kids.
Yeah.
They just would. Because I would demand, first off, I wouldn't cede everything to school districts the way I think some parents do.
Yeah.
I think it's tough when, you don't, I'm a believer in kids need faith, I think is important. And they need, a lot of other things that go along with a good education. I think we expect schools to just do 80% of the parenting, and that's a problem. But I'm just glad I don't have to deal with this on a personal level.
Right.
But I do. I go out in the workforce, and I deal with it in other ways too. And I have a 5-second rule out in the workforce.
Yeah.
5 seconds I can tell who's smart, who's educated, who's good, and I'm right like 95% of the time.
That's
a 5-second thing.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
That's I can't explain it. It's kind of like two people having chemistry. You can't explain it, but you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I do it. So anyway, interesting follow-up. We'll watch the events here. Apparently, they're not going to have somebody hired till July. They've got to pay all this money for a search firm and, interview a bunch of people allegedly.
I'm sure they will,
Whether they're sincere or not is
yeah.
anybody else's guess. But I think it's already... The fix is in, I think, already.
Probably.
Maybe not the person, but the profile.
Well, if the profile that is wrong, I will eat my hat. That's how certain I am.
Yeah. I'd say I'd eat my fishing pole or something, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to use that for many, many years. Don't think we're wrong here. Okay. Well,
yes. Well, that was lovely.
Wasn't it? We're in trouble already. Probably, maybe even more so than last week.
Well, yeah. I
don't get it. Why don't people, Jay, before we get on here, why don't people care? So many people don't care whether or not kids get educated or not.
Well, and I wrote this last week in the show notes for our podcast that we keep reelecting the same union endorsed candidates for school board almost always, and we don't ever change it. They raise our taxes over and over and over. They have nothing to show for it. Test scores do not increase. Graduation rates do not increase. And we still just, fine, take our money. We'll just keep putting you in office, and we won't do a thing about it.
Well, and it's not just the school boards, though. I mean, it's the people in the state. It's reform. It's administration. It's, the whole concept of this public school system, and whether that's, just because it's been there for 70 years, does that mean it's, there's no vision for the future other than the people who can afford to do what they want to.
Yeah.
Just the entire conversation about the best way I want kids to learn. I don't, like we said last week, they can go make friends with the Cub Scouts or at their church or at their Little League game or at their Girl Scouts or at their dance class. School's not, about recess. Okay, it's about, and then maybe it's different when they're really young. But I think by the time you get to high school, we trust these people to drive cars, to take jobs.
Enlist in the military.
Yeah, by 17, you technically can.
Yeah.
I mean, you're telling me they can't, they have to be in school to socialize. Then we complain about behavior problems and school safety and the cost of busing. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to complain about that, you need to be open to alternatives. And I think so many people are so close-minded on that anything that and this is why it's not about educating anymore. It's about protecting the system.
Yeah.
And keeping in place what's, the school district isn't a jobs program. So, I mean, but I'll tell you what, some people have got to get a backbone, lawmakers, and that includes voters, includes parents. I mean, people, we have a right to demand excellence.
Yeah.
You wouldn't take this at the workplace.
Nope.
Like we talked about last week, 1.3% over 5 years. You got that as in sales, boy. You'd be the next fry cook at Five Guys.
That's true.
So, we'll do this unified district BS, and at the end of it, we'll write up a new one, and nothing. The same people will do the same thing. So,
right.
Anyhow, just I can't spend a second straight week going off about that anymore, And another thing.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I'm joking. But no, we talked about the law.
Yes.
Before, Jay. And now what is that Bobby Darin song? John Mellencamp song. What is that? What are we talking about here?
Well, we elected a new sheriff here in Hennepin County. Sheriff Rich Stanek was the sheriff of Hennepin County a long time. Former state legislator, definitely brought a political approach to being a sheriff. This new guy,
I think, also brings a political approach.
I think he does too, even though his background is not political per se. We're talking about Dave Hutchinson.
Hutchinson?
Yeah, his Hutch is his nickname. It's not really Hutch Hutchinson.
Wasn't it Hutch on the ballot?
Yeah, well, I don't think so.
Wasn't it?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But his background is being a Metro Transit cop, I believe. Transit police, right?
I believe that's what they're called.
Yes.
Now, he won in a very close race. It was a very tightly contested contest and a pretty surprising upset. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
We talk all the time about how incumbents are tough to beat. In down the ballot elections, I'm gonna say I said something a couple of weeks ago, and I really mean this when I say this. I love to learn new things.
Yes.
Some people, they get, when you challenge them, they are kind of like a caged lion. They come out, they want to fight, and
yes.
I'm always like, okay, what's the new thing I can learn about local government in particular, because that's my passion as it is yours. And I have to make a confession.
Yes.
Because the first time I voted, Jay, and I've said this before, it was 1996. I was going to North Hennepin Community College.
Okay.
And that was the first year I voted. The first year I realized that sheriff was an elected position was the first time I met Rich Stanek.
Yes.
Which was in 2006 at our Senate District 45 Republican convention.
Yes.
And he wasn't the sheriff then. He was running for the first time. And that was the first time I'd met him. And I had been voting for 10 years, and I had no idea that the sheriff was an elected position. Now, I'm pretty sure I checked a box for it.
Probably.
I don't recall. I'm sure I did. But so that's embarrassing enough to admit. But I have to say it because I think that fits a lot of folks out there. That a county attorney is an elected position. Sheriff is an elected in other counties. We've talked about the clerks and the treasurers and townships and counties have other positions too, depending on where they are.
Hospital districts.
Soil and water is a county position, so on and so forth. So I think that there is a mild unawareness out there that sheriff is an elected. And in Hennepin County, 1 out of 5 people who live in Minnesota live in Hennepin County. It is bigger than a congressional district.
It is.
So it's a big, big job.
Yeah. And as a sheriff, you are the CEO, if you will, or the chief law enforcement officer.
Right. Of the entire county.
Of the entire county.
And
the buck stops with you.
And I should point out, the board of the county really doesn't boss the sheriff around. The sheriff is elected, so they're independent.
Absolutely, they are.
You know, Boss Hogg isn't going to Roscoe saying, "You hand out them citations to those jaywalkers." That doesn't happen.
Granted, the county does appropriate funds to the sheriff's office.
And they do set some policies, too.
Yes.
But they do not. The sheriff is independent of the county board.
Right.
So it is a powerful position. And it's like that everywhere. I mean, 87 counties in Minnesota.
Yep.
They all have an elected sheriff.
Yes, they do.
So it is a down-the-ballot, nonpartisan race. But let me tell you something. Not only is it bigger than a congressional district, it is increasingly partisan.
Yes.
You know, just like everything else. I mean, and I don't know why this is happening, but one side or the other thinks that they need to back somebody or recommend somebody or whatever you want to call it. Now, cards on the table. I consider Rich Stanek a friend of mine. I wasn't his biggest fan.
Yes.
I disagreed with him on some things as sheriff.
Right.
I'm going to withhold whether I voted for him every time he ran. I did vote for him last time.
Yes.
Against this Hutchinson guy. I've had my doubts about Mr. Stanek, former Sheriff Stanek, I guess I'll have to call him now. I'm always weary of somebody who is more political than law enforcement. That always worries me in a position like this. I know you have to be political to a point.
Right.
But it was no secret that he had, I think it's fair to say that he had ambitions beyond being sheriff of Hennepin County.
I don't know. Those rumors were out there.
Well, he didn't do anything to dispel them. So
Right.
I'm having to say that they were probably true. And he had some views on gun control and on so-called mental health, which
militarization of the
county's police force. He did spend a lot of time lobbying in Washington, and again, I think that's out of place for a sheriff. I think they belong. I believe in a constitutional sheriff, which we should probably do a show on at some point.
Right.
And I think it's questionable whether he fit that bill. I mean, he probably didn't, generally speaking. No, I don't hate the guy. I was on a first-name basis with him for a while. I mean, haven't seen him for a while.
Is that when he came and brought you your meals in the county jail? No. Sheriff Stanek, don't forget about me. Yeah. I'm wasting away down here.
I'm a delegate. Don't forget that. No, but I mean, he's always been cordial to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound like I have a chip on my shoulder or something. I don't. I mean, I really don't. But I did disagree with some of his focus, and I thought some spending was excessive on buildings and equipment and kind of little stuff. But, you know, but when we examine who we have now, you know, it's a great example of be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
You know, grass isn't always greener, and something can happen it's kind of like, I don't like the dictator of this country, but if we take that dictator, if we take out the Shah of Iran,
Right.
Who replaces them? I mean, I'm not comparing them to Iran. I'm just saying I'm using it as hyperbole.
Right.
I mean, what are you going to get if that person loses or doesn't run again, or we get somebody completely different? And we certainly have somebody very, very different.
Yes, we do.
And I'm going to leave it at that. But I mean, it's the truth. And this Metro Transit cop who comes out of nowhere to win this election, I have to sit back and at first have to wonder how did he do it?
Right.
I mean, he was definitely outspent, almost 3-1, I believe. I mean, he raised a fair amount of money. I mean, there's incumbent legislatures that don't raise the kind of money he raised.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 75 G's is not anything to squawk home about.
Right.
You and I had that kind of budget, we could probably win 5,000 elections.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I don't doubt that one bit.
yeah. So I mean, who is this Hutchinson guy? I mean, what's he all about?
Well, he does bring a different perspective to all of the sheriffing he does. Is that a word? Sheriffing. The law enforcement, the sheriffing he does. I think that the politics around law enforcement is going to change a lot in Hennepin County. And it's kind of interesting.
Okay, but Jay, I'm going to interrupt you. That in and of itself is a huge red flag. I'm not saying there were no politics when Stanek was involved.
There was.
But what I'm saying is if you are sworn, if you take an oath to enforce the law,
yes,
okay, then that means you have to, it's kind of like, I view it as being a judge. I have to enforce sentences and enforce jury verdicts and things like that, whether I have to know the difference between my personal opinion and the law.
Yes.
Okay? I may not like speeding laws, but that doesn't mean as a cop I can say, okay, well, then somebody can drive 110 miles an hour through a residential neighborhood.
Right.
So when you say politics are involved, that tells me special little groups are going to get, I guess one side would say treated fairly. I'm going to say treated differently.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, let's look at the first couple of hours, the first few hours that he was in office.
Okay.
We're
going back to January.
Yes, and this is out of the Minnesota Post, minpost.com, where it talks about new ways to make transgender inmates feel more comfortable in jail. He started contemplating this within the first few hours of taking office. I'm sorry, but you're in jail.
Yeah.
You're in jail. I don't care who you are.
So we got to make prisoners feel more welcome?
I guess. I don't understand that. You're in jail.
How many transgender inmates do we have, I'd like to know?
I don't know, and I don't care. They're in jail.
Yeah. Why don't they get their, breakfast at 7 and lunch at noon and supper at 5 like everybody else?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is all about. But
So is that a new program now in Hennepin County? The transgender chain gang or something? Is that?
Well, I don't know. That he talked about wanting to make some procedural changes over at the Maple Grove gun range where a lot of the deputies train. He talked about
procedural change.
Yeah, which
code language for something. What do you do? Shoot blanks?
Oh boy. Oh, I see what you mean.
Figurative.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see. So he's already looking at different ways to to change a lot of this, where we have our laws. It's not about enforcing the laws. It's about getting involved in the color of law, if you will. And I don't mean that in a racial way. I mean in color of law, it is more left to interpretation.
Well, I got to have something here.
Yes.
As part of his goal to reinvent how the sheriff's office operates, which of course isn't his job. His job is very simple. Hutchinson has met with trade unions, who, by the way, financially backed him, I should say, to see if they can get people who've had run-ins with the law into steady work. Now, is that the goal of a sheriff's office? That their job to find an inmate work?
No. What happened to the old license plate stamping factory?
Yeah, can't they make speed limit signs or something?
I don't know.
We want to be public safety is keeping people safe. It's not about arresting them and throwing into the street when they're done. Well, if they've served their time, isn't it their job to go? I mean, here's the thing. We can't be everybody's mom and dad here. We can't be everybody's grief counselor. I mean, what? It all sounds great. I mean, this is all good Oprah stuff, but I don't know. I don't know where he's going with this. I mean, we're going to bulk up the 911 dispatch. Is there a problem with it? I mean, you're not identifying anything wrong. And this is, again, another key. Diversifying the department. So translate that, we're going to whites need not apply.
Right.
We're not going to hire the best people. We're going to find a reason not to. Immigration is an issue that I'm passionate and angry about.
Yes.
At the same time.
Me too.
Because Hutchinson is one of these people that often blurs the line. One of the things that bothers me is the people who want open borders or something like that always blur the line between an immigrant and what we used to call an illegal alien. I guess it's politically incorrect to use that term. I'm going to use it anyway. I don't care. They're all one and the same. Or they pull your parents came from some foreign country in 1846, so you're no different than they are. Well, no, I would dispute that completely for reasons I'm not going to sidetrack on. But one of the things that he criticized was turning people over in jail to immigration and customs enforcement. So, in other words, you have an illegal alien who's committed a crime or is accused of a crime, and you turn them and say, okay, hey, look, we checked. This person's not here legally. So we call up the department that deals with that and turn them over to them. Because, of course, doing that is racist and a whole bunch of other things.
Right.
Sheriff Hutchinson has not expressed how he's going to deal with it, really, other than working to put together plans for how to approach this issue. I mean...
Well, he did say some things around it.
He did? Okay.
Yeah. There was... From CBS, there were some things that came out that he criticized Sheriff Stanek for cooperating too closely with ICE. And he also said that we are not going to treat immigrants differently. We are working with the county attorney. We have an immigration attorney on staff, and we are going through the laws and seeing what we can do. And so he's working with the city of Minneapolis.
That's not good.
Right. City of Minneapolis gave a green light to a proposal to create a citywide ID card that residents could get. Remember we talked about that earlier?
Yeah.
And what a bad idea that was because it was going to affect parking and all that kind of stuff.
So, in other words, a citywide ID card. In fact, I'm looking at the same article here. We're not going to treat immigrants differently. No, it's illegal immigrants and immigrants. You're an immigrant, you have nothing. You probably already have a job, have a place to live, have a car, you probably do. You're probably going to school. Okay. And this green or this citywide ID, Hutchinson and city leaders say they want undocumented residents to easily more access services. So we're going to take the illegal alien and we're going to give them the tools they can use to get all the taxpayer-funded stuff. Half of it I can't get.
Right.
That's what we're going for here. So that's one of the things he's all about here is again, it's all about blurring the lines between and I would argue capitalizing on divisions.
Yeah.
He's taking the fear that some people have or the feelings of racism or whatever you want to call it, and he is using that to his advantage. He used it to his advantage to win. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
That's language there that it's racist language.
Mm-hmm.
Basically accusing Stanek of turning criminal illegal aliens over to authorities as racist policy.
Right. When really all it is he doesn't agree with it.
Well, but you're not allowed to disagree. That's
right.
the thing with a lot of people on the far left there. Your total conformity is the goal, not anything other than that. Now, he's also made some comments recently. He has come out, speaking of immigration, he has come out in favor of a driver's licenses for illegal aliens now as well.
Wow.
Which is something I believe that there is a bill for that right now in the legislature. I believe, anyhow. I'm trying to think of where I saw that. I want to say Ryan Winkler or somebody like that.
Oh, boy, the Fonz.
Yeah, is... I'll say this for Ryan Winkler. There's never a strand of hair out of place, is there?
Yeah. Oh, boy.
But, he has come out in favor of that, and I'm trying to find a...
It's House File 348.
No way. What does it say exactly? Is there some way you can paraphrase it there?
Let me see if I can find it. I was looking at an article. I believe that's the one. Well, I looked that up, but what the implications? Now,
remember, this guy's in law enforcement here,
right? But here's the thing. Okay, a driver's license is for anybody that's not from this country. You can get an international driver's license to get permission to drive on the streets of the United States. Just like if I was to go to another country, I could get an international driver's license to allow me to drive on the streets of that country. But that's not what they're talking about here. That's not what they're talking about, is getting permission to drive on the streets. They are talking about legitimization of people that want to move here without becoming citizens and giving them an actual Minnesota driver's license, a Minnesota identification card that they could take to the polls. And
that's what I'm talking about too.
If you have anybody that is working those polls and there's not a poll watcher, there's not a poll challenger, you have somebody that's politically motivated, how many times is that going to get passed and somebody given a ballot to vote?
Well, I can tell you this firsthand. Firsthand as a former election judge. Somebody has ID, Yeah. You assume, I guess I shouldn't say assume, and they actually don't need ID here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But, that is used to legitimize somebody's vote. I'm just trying to think of, you know, I'm going back a ways when I was an election judge. I mean, I'm going back to 2008-ish. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember, immigration status isn't on somebody's driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get here's my license, shows where I live.
Yep.
You can same day register.
Yep.
So how are you going to protect legitimate voters? How are you going to know? How would you know as a poll challenger or a election judge?
Yeah, I don't know how you would.
I mean, unless you're going to make a driver's license that says immigration status on it, but people are going to argue that that's racist or, whatever else they are.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know how you're going to differentiate that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because it says on March 15th, 2019, Hutchinson did a press release about House File 1500, which makes modifications related to driver's licenses in Minnesota ID cards. The bill
1500
would allow individuals to obtain a driver's license without providing proof of legal status. Hutchinson apparently testified in favor for it at the legislature. Quote, as sheriff of Hennepin County, my primary responsibility is to ensure the public safety of our residents. I know from my experience as a police officer, that you were a transit cop, roads are safest when people driving cars are trained, tested, licensed, and insured. This bill helps ensure, driving uninsured is against the law anyway.
Right.
So whether you have a license or not doesn't mean you're insured.
No, it does not.
Or trained. You know how many bad drivers there are out there? You know how many drivers out there took their driver's test, before the Korean War? I mean, come on here. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, okay. So looking at HF 1500, it says in here, a person is not required to demonstrate United States citizenship or lawful presence in the United States in order to obtain a non-compliant driver's license or identification card. Huh. So, I mean, there it is right there. Yeah. Come on in and get a driver's license. It's like when you go to a national park and they give you the little thing and you got to go around and, when you're a kid, you go around and you do the little things that are in there and you get your thing stamped if you complete the booklet. Huh. It's kind of the same deal here.
That's what that is.
You come to the United States and do the stuff in the book, and then we'll stamp your driver's license, and it's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, I don't understand how is somebody who talks about enforcing the law, takes an oath to do it, can come out in favor of something like this. I mean, come on here. I mean. I don't know. I'm baffled as to how somebody would. I'm not baffled. See, that's the thing. I mean, driver's license for illegal aliens has become a mainstream Democratic view, has it not?
It has.
I mean, there used to be a time where, a $15 minimum wage, open borders, driver's license. I mean, this was a Medicare for all was a fringe view.
Right, and now
it's almost like
I'm surprised it's not part of the platform.
Well, my theory, Party. I said my theory on why Joe Biden's not running for president. First thing he's going to be asked is all this crap.
Right.
What's he say? If he says, well, I'm for it, then he's just another one of them.
Right.
If he says look what happened when he called Mike Pence a decent guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Pence is a decent. Look, I got friends and relatives who don't agree with me. They're decent people.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come out and say I have a friend who's liberal and he's a decent person, I get vilified for it.
Well, that's kind of the way it works.
I mean, that's the climate that we're in, right? So, I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, that will be interesting to see how and if that gets handled. I know what Beto just jumped in the presidential race today, or Robert Francis O'Rourke, as he's known by family.
And
yeah.
Tucker Carlson calls him that too.
But he's theoretically not supposed to be a socialist, so we'll see how he answers some of those questions.
No, he's got success the John Kerry way, married into wealth, and is just gonna, have fun the rest of his life.
Yeah.
That's the philosophy there.
Well, we'll see.
So, yeah, I don't know. I've never seen. I thought Obama got a lot of fawning media coverage. This guy gets.
Yeah.
He'll do all the Oprah stuff, and all that is coming.
Anyways, I mean, going back to the sheriff here, this is something though that he supported. He does want to have driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. So, that's just another thing. It's like, what's going to happen when things start coming across where it's, gun restrictions or outright bans of certain types of things, or,
to a certain extent, he's already hinted at that with mental health issues.
Right.
He's already sort of. I would say Sheriff Stanek wasn't the best on this issue either.
No.
But I do think that he is going to move for something. I think he's going to. I mean, basically making, what do you call it? A driver's license for illegal aliens. I mean, you basically legitimize them. So now, and this is something I've worried about from the beginning, that we won't pass gun laws at the state level or the federal level, but there'll be a nod, wink, wink to do it at the local level, because
absolutely,
where do you go get a gun permit from?
Well, yeah, you got to go through the county
little class or whatever to do carry and.
Right, you take the class with a local dealer, but when you submit your permit to carry, that goes through the county. So
I mean, is it possible that something could? What can he do to change that a little? Is there a way he can finagle something to? I don't know. I'm guessing he's going to try.
Right. Well, I don't think that there's a lot he can do without the backing of the county commissioners.
Well, but
at least. But I imagine he would be more than willing to go along with it, even if it wasn't constitutional, until it got taken to the Supreme Court or something like that.
Yeah, which, who knows? I'll be honest with you. Who knows what would happen the more it got up there?
Right.
I mean, I just I wouldn't know. But another thing is this diversity stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's made comments, and one of the comments he made when he was running is there's not one Somali-speaking deputy in Hennepin County, as an example. Minnesota has 32,000 Somali residents in Minnesota. I think that's low.
Yeah.
The population. Hutchinson would like to see improved representation of community members from all races, religions, and from within the LGBT community. So, races and religions and sexual orientation now will be, what are you going to do? Check those on a job application?
I thought that was against the law.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
I want our people to represent the entire community and mirror the way people serve. Well, you can't do that.
No.
You have to hire qualified people to do the job.
I would like, and I don't know if there's any way to get these numbers, I would like to know how many Somalis have gone through a law enforcement training program, graduated, and then applied at Hennepin County Sheriff's Department for a job, and then got turned down. I would like those numbers, because I would imagine the answer is pretty close to zero. It might not be exactly zero, but I bet it's pretty close to zero. And so for you to want to increase those numbers, I mean, first of all, you got to have qualified applicants that have gone through law enforcement training programs and graduated.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, you have to have the qualification. It's like saying, okay, I want more minority teachers in the classroom. Well, there's certain qualifications to be a teacher.
Right. They're not letting anybody step into a classroom.
You have to go through the training and get your degree. And, I mean, everybody knows what it takes.
Right.
So how are you going to do that? And if there's a small pool of minorities who are qualified, everybody's going to be trying to gobble them up.
Right.
And he mentions the LGBT community.
Yes.
Now, a lot's been made because he's openly gay, which I don't care about. But I would argue that in some ways he used that to get elected. This made the Huffington Post. This made the New York Times. Oh, there's an openly gay guy running. You know, or he let it be done, whatever the truth. He could have come out and said, hey, well, that's nobody's business but mine, which technically it's not. But is that another community that voted for this guy for reasons other than...
He'd be a good sheriff.
You're right.
Yeah.
Identity politics, back to that.
Isn't that what everything's about nowadays?
Well, it seems like it. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not for somebody serving in the same position term after term after term after term after term. I think that's a problem.
Yes.
But just remember, when you take one person out, you never know who's going to be put in there. So, you know, I mean, but some of the things he says, boy, I'm pretty concerned about. I also think this mental health stuff. I mean, you know, I've said this before on this show many times that I'm a mental health skeptic.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a skeptic that half the people in jail have some sort of disorder or illness. I think that's blurring good and evil a lot. And I mean, you know, nobody's going to change unless they want to. So what are you going to do? Stand there and drug them to death? I mean, what's the plan to cure their mental health?
Well, that worries me too, you know. There was a new bill that came out, the federal level, from Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal.
Boy, I really don't like that combo.
No. It's the Federal Extreme Risk Protection Order Act, which would take guns away from people really for any reason. If there was some sort of worry that person was volatile or there was a mental health issue. So theoretically, if you had somebody that was angry with somebody else, or there was some sort of issue happening within a family, and you had someone that felt like, you know what, I'm going to stick it to the other one, and I am going to say that they are threatening me, they're abusing me, or whatever, and I'm going to get their firearms taken away just to do it. This law would allow that to happen.
Really?
Yes. And so then how does this work? Because obviously the sheriffs are the one that would have to go in and take care of that. I think more so than like your local police. I mean, obviously they're not sending in the FBI. I suppose they could send in...
They shouldn't be. It's not the FBI's jurisdiction.
Right.
You know.
So, yeah, it's super worrisome. It says it seeks to balance the Second Amendment rights of the individual concerns from law enforcement and family members about those who may be experiencing a mental health crisis.
Well,
So-
but let me say something that I've said before. Let's just say somebody has, and what's the definition of a mental illness? Somebody who has depression, do they forfeit their Second Amendment rights?
Yeah.
Would we take away their right to vote, or their Fifth Amendment rights, or Eighth Amendment rights, or 14th Amendment rights? Why are there Second Amendment rights on a buffet line to get knocked over?
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're suffering from postpartum depression doesn't mean you can't have a weapon to defend yourself.
Right.
Or take up arms against a tyrannical government.
Absolutely.
So, I guess my big concern is I think that this is, every time there's some sort of school shooting, of course, or tragic event like that, it's always used to try to pass laws. And the way they used to do it was to call it common sense gun laws.
Right.
Now they look for somebody's mental health to be, the person, got dumped by Susie, or, they're sad because their dad died, so they blew up, something. And that's now being, that those folks need to, does every person who owns a firearm have to go under some mental health? Are we all guilty until proven innocent?
Well, that's the way this country is going. And that law would remove firearms for up to a year based on the findings, and
whose findings?
Exactly. Mental health.
You trust judges to do this? I don't.
No, I don't trust psychologists to do it.
Yeah. A lot of them have an agenda.
Yeah. But, going back to Hutch here, I believe that on a number of these issues, like we've talked about, we are going to see radical changes, and we are going to see what a progressive sheriff looks like. One who isn't interested in upholding the Constitution, but doing what he feels is best for the people of Hennepin County because he feels it's best. It fits the progressive agenda. It brings equality to the situation.
Well, you talk about the progressive agenda and all the check marks all the boxes this guy check marks.
Yeah.
Because I keep wondering, where did they get this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, Stanek is a guy that the DFL tried to take out.
Yes.
You got to remember, if you look at Hennepin County, they don't have to worry about legislative races in Minneapolis.
No.
Okay. So they can put all of their resources into local or municipal elections, we'll call it.
Right.
So where did they get this guy to run? How did he get this? I'm still wondering who his shadow people are.
Right.
Now, we know that he got money from the usual unions and Senate, DFL Senate District 48 and 50 were contributors to him. Anybody contributing over $100 has to be disclosed.
Yeah.
So, he checks every little box that the left would use in finding a candidate.
Right.
So, how'd they get this guy?
Yeah, somebody, somehow, whether he had an interest in running before or they found him and created an interest in him. Yeah. Obviously, they were looking for somebody. They found somebody that they could glom onto that they're like, oh, this.
But Stanek's been challenged before.
Yeah, but one was a write-in candidate.
Last time he did 14, he was challenged. Yeah. He lost the endorsement of the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Or the deputies union.
Right.
And won by 20 points.
Yeah.
Or more. I don't even remember, but I know it wasn't close.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think he had a very strong opponent, though, either.
Maybe he didn't, but how strong is this guy? Got outraised 3-1.
Yeah. I saw his signs all over the place, though.
Maybe that's the thing. I mean, maybe he ran a smarter campaign and just tried to do his best to say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, but again, we're stuck with, I mean, we're going to investigate this. I mean, how he got to where he got it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I just can't believe that this guy quite came out of nowhere. It's just he's all too perfect for them.
Yeah.
Openly homosexual, doesn't want to enforce immigration law. It kind of mirrors where, like I said, where the shift has gone on the left. They're no longer capitalists who believe in a social safety net. That's not that's John F. Kennedy liberal. They don't. They're Republicans now. They don't exist anymore. So I mean, this he represents that, and he's gone on and done all the cushy interviews with Channel 4 and people who aren't going to challenge him. And I'm going to be straight with you here. Nobody locally is going to challenge this guy.
Right.
And no matter what he does, nobody's going to come out and go after him.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, nobody pays attention to sheriffs that way.
This proves they're going to have to.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, and you hit the nail on the head earlier. I mean, the Democrats know that they're going to win the Minneapolis races for state-level races, state-level candidates. So they can put their money into other things. But yet, you have the Republican Party in Minnesota. You have the National Republican Party that stick money into CD6. No offense to Tom Emmer, but stick money into CD6, which is a pretty sure seat. Or state races where, Glenn Gruhagen
And I mean, is this guy somebody that just got into the machine? I mean, you mentioned at your house getting 20 pieces of DFL lit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is this a guy once they realized they had their check marks here, put him in the machine and put out those sample ballots and get him in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's all of the above. I mean, you alert your base, you get people behind him working on his behalf. These same people at the state and federal level races that don't need the money, they don't really need the volunteers either, because it's a pretty sure thing. So you can take your volunteers and you can put them into local level races, which means a lot more yard signs go up, because a lot more flyers go out, because a lot more phone calls are made, because a lot more money is raised, and you have people to do things with that money.
Allocating those resources is just something they're very good at. Usually, anyway. They're not always good at it.
Not always.
But, so, we elected this Hennepin County. I mean, we're going to have 4 years of consequences.
Right.
But when I see a law enforcement officer go in front of the state and basically violate his oath, I mean, it's just sad. I don't know what else you call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, that's lovely. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Minnesota, let's have a little talk here, you and me.
And to talk about a constitutional sheriff one of these shows.
We're going to do that. I think we're going to do that. Maybe we'll even have to see if we can get somebody on. And
that would be good,
make a
too.
Good show out of it. Minnesota, this is not an isolated incident. It's easy to do in Hennepin County, but it can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be in Hennepin County, and they are doing it. And if they're not doing it with sheriff, they're definitely doing it at city council. They're doing it with county commissioners. They're doing it with soil and water conservation. They're doing it with township boards. They're doing it with school boards. So you need to get in a position where you can make your voice heard. And one way to do that is, make sure that you listen in every week, and we'll give you a brand new scoop on something that's going on around the state so that you can look for it in your area. You can ask us to come out and talk to your group. We're more than happy to do that. Or you can share this podcast with people. We ask you rate it. because when you rate it really high, it gets put up into that other podcasts that you might be interested in, and it helps get the word out. So if you rate it and leave comments, we're super thankful for that. But, this is so that the word can get out, not to make us look cool or anything like that.
Well, that's just a secondary.
Right. Fringe benefits. So that's one way. The next way is by getting involved, getting on a commission, an advisory commission, and learning about local government and getting your voice heard. And then it might spark something in you where you want to run for an office, whether it's as a sheriff, whether it's city council. It doesn't matter, but we've got to find those people. We've got to find our A-listers to be able to put into those roles, but it starts with getting on an advisory commission. So ask us how to do that. We'll be more than happy to help you. But it's going to take you standing up and doing something, because the longer that we lay down and just say things will work themselves out, things will not work themselves out, because the left is very motivated to make these changes happen and to make them permanent. We can lose freedom in this country, and it's got to be a concerted effort from those of us that believe in the Constitution of the United States to make sure that we put some skin in the game. That's the only way that we're going to do it. So you email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. Get in touch with us, and we'll be more than happy to help you. So what we're going to do, we're going to go away. We're going to gather some facts, and we're going to come back with another podcast. So you got a week to share this far and wide and get people up to speed so you know what to look for in your county. We love you, Minnesota. Now it's your turn to get to work.
If I get too caught up